I'm about ready with this one to call this highlighting stage done. As I've re-enhanced the colour of the skin, and what we're going to do next is re-enhance the colour of the hat by again adding paints to the highest areas of the hat and keeping it dark in the recesses. Now, as you can see, the actual wash has changed the colour tremendously of the hat, but we can, as I say, bring the colour back just by doing this. It's not a very difficult thing to do. It just takes a little bit of practice, like everything else, to get the paint exactly where you want it. And once that happens, you'll find out how it makes everything go really well. It makes all the areas that you want to stand out really dynamic, especially if you get the highlights in the correct area. Now, once again, with this, I'm putting multiple coats of the same shade on this, and that enhances the colour even more, especially when it's an area where it does show up the light. But there's only the hat that needs doing with that. Now it's the leotards. Okay, so again, all around the edges we go with this. Anywhere that is raised, I'm not doing an edge highlights, but it's very like that. If you get my drift, where it's what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's raised, add a little bit of this, just so you know this is, or as you look at it, you know that this is the actual colour. That's what we're trying to indicate here. So this is the majority of the mid tone, and if it's a mid tone, then it's the actual colour of the thing. Shadows darken this colour, and the highlights lighten this colour, or this tone rather. And when you apply a highlight and a shadow to something, it does make the world of difference to the way you see it, especially when you can add multiple coats of the same colour and build up the intensity of the colour in one particular part. And that shows you really where the highlights will go, but more importantly it makes the highlights then, when you put them on, a little brighter, because there's already a brighter area where it's going that stands out from the shadow. So there we are. So that's that bit done. For him anyway, I just need to do it for the other fella. And you notice that I cleaned my brush before I started him, because I wanted to get the point back, because I've been doing a lot more narrow stuff on this fella. Need to touch up a little bit more on the green, I think, in some parts, but we can do that later on. And now into the brighter red for the armbands, and this is just a case of a fine line. I'm just going and picking out certain steps with this. This doesn't have to be brilliant, because in fact I might change the colour with this on together in a bit. I think it's too much red. But I don't know yet. Let's see how it goes. There we are. That's him done. And now the man here. See, I'm not actually touching much, I'm just stroking it along, and if anywhere gets a little bit of paint on it, then fine and dandy. If not, I keep going until it does. Next, boots. Okay, so again, getting everywhere with this, and trying to define and give it a more 3D look. Just get a bit more paint on the brush, and I'll go over that piece again. Oh yeah, and now here. A little bit of water goes a long way when you're painting minis. There we are. Now we'll just add paint here and there, just to build up and stop the boots looking too dark and lifeless and flat. There we go. And the other pair of boots. Actually, I think I've decided, I've made an executive decision that I am going to change one of the arm straps, arm bands, whatever they are. I think there's way too much in the line of red on here, so once I've done this, I'm going to use this. In fact, I'm going to use the Scrag Brown to repaint the arm bands. I want to change colour of. That will do fine. And the Scrag Brown, as I said, we'll use to change the colour of this armband. It's not going to be this colour, but I'm using this as a shadow colour. And this armband, he's got two on, you see, so I think there's too much red. I just want to break it up a little bit to make it a little more interesting, and we'll do it that way. Okay, so next we start the highlighting properly by bringing in Screaming Skull. Give it a bit of a shake, pop the lid, and we'll get some of the Screaming Skull on the palette. There we go. Right, now I'll start off with the Screaming Skull in with a little bit of this Nurgling Green. And we want much more Nurgling Green than Screaming Skull at this stage. We just want to brighten the colour up. We want to do it slowly rather than too quickly, because if you do it too quickly it's not going to look right. But if we do lots of little subtle highlights, it will make all the difference. So I'm just watching where I'm putting this. I don't want it everywhere, and I certainly don't want it anywhere that is in shadow. So we'll put up here, and if I missed anywhere with the main base coat, we can always correct it or adjust it with this, unless of course it's underneath. We are going a little further down than we would do with the final highlight, because we want to make some room for the fine highlight, but we're not covering up the entire amount of green that we have here. We're covering up perhaps 90% of it. I'm going to just add a little bit of colour there and colour on that edge and there. this will show that there is. This will bring out the, oh dear God, my brain's not working. This will bring out the main parts quite well and push the shadows even further back so that they will look darker. As we say, we're covering most but not all of the green that we've already applied, and if we need to we can go back and put more of this on. But just be careful where you apply this. You don't want it in the wrong place, so make sure you don't put this bit where there is supposed to be a shadow, because that's not going to look right, and it will stand out like a sore thumb. As you can see, I'm doing it on the top of the ear but not the bottom. There we are. And a little bit more on the face. We want the face to be a lot brighter, because we want on the focus to go on the face and nowhere else. You know, so I want to make sure that the face is the brighter part of the Mini. And with him pointing near enough to the face, we can make this hand a little brighter as well, and that will draw your eye to the Mini, or draw your eye to his face. So we'll just keep going at this. There we are. I think that is about all I can do for this fella. Now it's your man here, and again I'm going to start off on the head. You can see it's not a big difference to how the original paint went on. As you can see as well, I'm making sure it's a solid colour here, but around the edges I'm just tapering it off and putting odd scattered lines. And further on you may see me doing like dots instead of a solid line, and that's to blur it out slightly so it looks like it's blended in with the previous coat. We're getting very close to the end of this stage. There's not much to do now. In fact, I think we've actually got to the stage where we can say the second highlight is complete. But I'm just going to go over the top of the head once more, because that is definitely where there's going to be some lights hitting, so we want that to stand out. As I said earlier, you want the face to be the brightest part, and I know that to stand out. Okay, so that's that bit done. Now, I did say that we were changing the colour of them armbands. Well, we've got this man out here. We're going to do that now. We're going to go in with just Screaming Skull. Nothing else, just Screaming Skull. And we're just going to make a few little lines. You don't have to be perfect. All we're trying to do is just changing the basic colour, putting the base colour on. We will be coming in later and adding a highlight to this as well, which does not include, well, it does include Screaming Skull, but not as the, obviously not as the additive to make the highlight, which is what we normally do with Screaming Skull. That's what I normally do with Screaming Skull, not we. There's plenty of people have different ways of adding highlights. I quite like the off-white creamy colour to be the perfect highlight addition, because it doesn't change the colour of the what should we do yet? It doesn't change the colour or the tone of the colour that you're trying to highlight, or it doesn't actually change the colour of the highlight, it just makes it paler. Speaking of which, I caught the red here, so I'm going to have to come out back and sort that out. There we are. I think I caught it over here as well. Yeah, I did when I was doing the green. There we are. So that's that bit done. Next, we're going to add some of the Screaming Skull into the red for the whatchamacallit, leotards. There's not much of this left now. So I'm going to add a little bit of that in there. And you can see it's not changed it to pink, it's just made it a different shade. So with this different shade, we're just going to come down and go over a few areas. And again, we're not looking to swamp out all the colour we've just put on, because we want to try and make it look as though it is that colour. This time we're adding enhancements to that colour to make it look as though light is hitting. So that's what we're doing. So we will do an edge highlight here, which is something I very rarely, in fact, if by choice, I virtually never do, because I don't like the look, but some cases need an edge highlight. When it's like little bands of cloth like this, edge highlight is a good way of picking out detailed, and will allow it to stand out. From the skin. Oh yeah, and just little dot there, little dot there, little dot there. Now quite often I will use Evil Sun Scarlet to highlight this colour, but because we're using Evil Sun Scarlet for another part of this, I don't want it all looking the same, so that is why I'm not doing it in this case. I'm wanting this colour to stand out from the armbands, So we'll just keep highlighting up this colour rather than making the Screaming Scarlet the highlight for this colour. So that's one done.